What problems are you dealing with in your life right now?
Do you feel like giving up? Times are hard and you're not strong. Well, I know the answer for you, and it will lead to real truth. Don't look back to yesterday.
Now there are answers.
Tomorrow's on the
Welcome to
way.
Live Prayer.
It's waiting there for you.
Here's your
And welcome to Live Prayer. I am Bill Keller. Good to be with you on this Wednesday evening. It's been a good Wednesday for you. Good to be back with you once again. If you're new to the program, you are watching Live Prayer. We come to you live in living color every Monday through Friday, 11 to midnight Eastern Standard Time. And wherever you're watching me tonight, all throughout this great land of ours, from sea to shining sea and border to border, thank you for tuning in. Our friends in other far-off great lands, welcome to you as well. Once again, I am Bill Keller, founder of Liveprayer.com, world's largest interactive Christian website. Reach a little over 2.5 million folks each and every day via the internet. Please check us out online. Web address is coming up on your screen, Liveprayer.com, Liveprayer.com. So here we are, Wednesday already, and pray it's been a good day for you as we're working through, I guess, the last couple real weeks of the year, because with Christmas on New Year's on a Thursday, kind of the last 2 weeks get busted up. By the way, regarding that, we will be here next week, all 5 nights, unless Jesus comes, unless God calls me home. I have to put those real caveats in there. But if neither of those things occur, we'll be here Monday through Friday of all next week. The following Christmas week, we'll be here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Okay? Wednesday, of course, Christmas Eve. That will be our Christmas program. We will not be here Christmas Day. We will not be here the Friday after Christmas. Similar schedule the next week. We will be here live on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Wednesday, of course, being New Year's Eve. That will be our final show for the year. And technically, as we leave the air on Wednesday night, we will be leaving in the Eastern time zone anyway, with the year 2026 underway. So no program on New Year's Day, no program the day after New Year's. All right. I think the next year it gets a little better, because I'm assuming Christmas and New Year's will be on Friday that week. So we'll at least have 4 good shows those weeks. So anyway, that's where we're at. Again, pray you had a good day today. Before we get started tonight, got a lot of great content for you, especially on the social media scene. Stuff that you really need to hear and understand. But before we do anything, 4 things I ask you to do for me each night on the program. First, pray for me and the program. Thank you. It means more than I could ever begin to tell you, knowing that you're praying for me. It really is, it's critical and it's meaningful like you'll never understand. Second, of course, is the Live Prayer Daily Devotional. If you don't get it, go to my homepage, upper right-hand corner, click on the sign-up link. A couple pieces of basic information. You'll be good to go. Start coming in your email every morning. It's free like everything at Live Prayer. Good way to start your day with some spiritual juice, some spiritual encouragement, some inspiration. And again, as I always tell you, if nothing else, when you see that Live Prayer Daily Devotional every single day, day after day, week after week, month after month, it is that daily reminder our walk with Jesus is 24/7. Amen? And by the way, do me a favor. Most of our regulars, I'm sure, get the devotional. We also post it on all of our social media platforms, just for people that maybe it's easier to get it that way, but it's on every one. Plus, we are going to be with family and friends maybe in the coming weeks you normally don't see the rest of the year. Please tell them about Live Prayer, not just the daily devotional, but of course, number 3 is a TV program. Tell them about this program. I've got some more updated Ukraine-Russia peace talk stuff for you tonight. I got to be honest, it really is unbelievable. Well, you'll see what I'm talking about in a few minutes. But tell people about the program. Last of all, of course, this is a faith ministry. I don't trust advertisers, sponsors. We don't take time to put together concerts or conventions. Don't do cruises. Don't do trips to the Holy Land. And listen, please, as I talk about these things, I know other ministries do them, and that whatever they're led by God to do, they have to do. This ministry has been focused from day one, 33 years ago, on bringing God's truth into the marketplace outside the four walls of the church. And of course, sharing with people the hope and love of Jesus and how they can have an everlasting relationship with Christ. And I have used pretty much every breath I've had for the last 33 years to do that. I don't lose my focus, cutting deals with people to sell dog food or anything like that. Again, God bless the people to do. But we have walked by faith for 33 years, over 26 years now online, and next March will be 23 years on TV. When I say walk by faith, it's exactly that. I mean, I simply get on my knees, lay my hands on our budget the first of every month. I've been doing it now every month for 33 years. Ask God, just move on the hearts of people who love you, love your work, see the vision of what we do. And listen, here's the thing. After doing this for a third of a century, I can tell you, you don't last a third of the century if God's not in this, okay? And the fruit that is produced each and every day at Live Prayer, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, now decade after decade, is all that people need to know regarding putting that seed in good soil. Do me a favor, we got a few weeks left in the month. The last couple weeks are going to be totally disjointed with Christmas and New Year's, so we've really got the rest of this week and next week. Please pray about a special year-end gift to Live Prayer to help me so we can end this year with everything square as we go into the new year. Go to my homepage, up right-hand corner. There is a donation link. Click on that. It will give you our address in St. Petersburg, Florida, if you want to put a check in the mail. Also give you a link to our credit card portal if a secure credit card donation is easier for you. Amen? But please do take a moment and pray about doing something for the ministry before the end of the year. I appreciate it. Let's pray. Father, grateful to come together once again. I'm so thankful for my friends who have joined me tonight as we come to hear from you the things we need to know about what's going on in our nation, our world, this temporal world that we are spending a few moments in. Things that we need to know just so we can navigate this walk, just so we can navigate this short time, and hopefully become the best servants of the Most High God we can. I pray blessings upon my friends. I pray traveling mercies for those going to and fro during the holidays. Be with them in a special way. Make this the most special Christmas season ever. Bless them richly. Thank you for this day, the blessings we've enjoyed throughout. We commit this time to you now, Lord. Speak to our hearts and minds. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. Praise God. All right, let's get started. I'm going to start with you tonight down under good old Australia. Australia became the first advanced nation on earth to put a age ban on social media. Anyone under 16 is prohibited now from being on social media. I'm talking Twitter, I'm talking X, which is what Twitter has become, of course, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, I mean, there are no social media platforms have got some kind of a cutout clause. It literally extends to all social media platforms. In Australia, anyone under 16 is prohibited from being on social media. Now, before I talk to you about some practical issues with this, there is a debate. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Obviously, the Social media companies don't like it. They're concerned that might be the first step to more regulation. This might be the first step to somehow reining them in, if you want to call that. And then you've got another side of this coin. Do children under 16 really need to be on social media? I mean, we have documented for weeks, months, years now, the problems of social media, especially when it's related to younger people. The sexploitation that's going on now, the sex blackmail that's going on, child predators that are on there, kids using these applications to get drugs, literally have drugs delivered to their home, like it's DoorDash. And of course, we are all too familiar with the horror stories that have come from a lot of those situations with fentanyl-laced drugs that have taken young people's lives. And just the fact that even if you take all that stuff away, which you can, but let's just take that away for now, you still have just the problem with maturing socially, right? We've talked about that for years now, the social retardation of really a good generation and a half, maybe nearly 2 generations now, because of the internet. And I know there's good parents out there who do everything they can to police this, but I mean, I can tell you stories. I mean, the prayer requests we get here every day, 40-some thousand. I can tell you story after story about parents that take their kids' phones at night. They get them, in the morning after they eat their breakfast. But in the meantime, the kids got like a second phone the parents don't know about, and they're up all night. I mean, so there is a legitimate debate. Let me conclude it this way. There is a legitimate debate to be had whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. And I think that's going to be a healthy debate as we move forward. Now, here's the problem, though. And, I mean, this is just reality. How are they going to enforce this? How are they going to enforce this? How are they going to enforce the fact that, you're over 16 or over to be on a social media site? Kids are smart. Kids are very smart. I to be honest, not to mention, Australia's, one of these censorship countries anyway. But you've got these VPNs, these virtual private networks that basically allow you to bypass all of the guardrails. So, while we can have the debate about if kids under 16 should be on social media, I really do not see how there's going to be an enforcement mechanism. Before they went to this place, they should have, first of all, figured out, how are you going to enforce compliance? Because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know how they're going to be able to do this. Now, listen, I know there's now in a bunch of states around the country, states have basically made laws that pornography is blocked in their state unless you're over whatever it is, 18 or 21. And they have created at least somewhat of an enforcement mechanism that it forces people to put in some kind of an age verification, okay, to access that in those states. But, and let me tell you what, trust me, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm a realist, and I've watched these things go sideways quick. I think the only way they're going to get compliance to this, the only way they're going to be able to force this, is with something called a digital ID. Now, this should be sending off whistles and bells to you if you've been watching this program, because don't forget, the digital ID is the goal of the globalist. Everybody will have a digital ID. Now, that is the ultimate tool to track you. That is the ultimate tool to basically control your finances. It's the ultimate censorship tool, okay? It is the globalist dream to have everybody with a digital ID. And you want to talk about a surveillance state? Now, if you don't believe me, this is in essence what they have in places like China, where the government literally has the ability to track and surveil people online. And in the process, they can see what they're buying, what they're selling, what they're doing, what they're looking at. And a lot of time, and in a place like China, a lot of that type of activity goes into, their social credit score, which, helped educate this audience on years ago, where everybody, like you have a FICO score now for your credit. This is a social credit score that determines whether you can have rent a hotel room, fly on a plane, leave the country, take the local bus. It is just a horrible system. But this is the ultimate dream of the globalists, to be able to control the movements, the finances, everything about each individual. So, and again, while I think we're going to have a healthy debate over whether children under 16 should be on social media, I think that's a very legitimate debate. In passing this law, they have in no way, shape, or form given any indication how they're going to enforce this. There's really no compliance measures that have been put forth. And again, like I said before, if you're not familiar with these virtual private networks, they cost money. You have to pay for them every month. But basically, you go online and you're like, you have access to everything. So we will see as this comes down. All right, let's have our nightly discussion about why there will never be a peace deal between Ukraine and between Russia as long as Zelensky's empowering Ukraine, okay? Today, listen to this one. Do you remember that infamous Oval Office meeting, the first time when Trump met with Zelensky? The press was there. Zelensky was dressed like he's, I don't know, some kind of the leader of a militaristic country. Anyway, he got ripped for not having a suit on. That's the one, right? And Trump looked at him after a while. He had enough, heard enough, because Zelensky was very bold in that meeting because he had had breakfast that day with his war pig buddies in the Senate and the House who amped him up. And Trump finally looked at him and said, "You have no cards." And Zelensky was trying to talk back. He said, "You have no cards. They have no cards. They still have no cards." But listen to what happened today. Zelensky announced that he and the Europeans want to attend a meeting in Washington over this peace deal. And Trump is basically said, well, there will come a time for a meeting, but not now. We don't have any kind of agreement. There's no, and don't forget, he's had his main negotiating guys that helped do the peace deal in Israel and all over the world, Wickoff, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. They've met over and over with Putin. They met over and over with Zelensky and a Ukrainian delegation. I mean, this has been going on for months now. But listen to this. Zelensky says there is a European counter proposal coming. What? A European counter proposal? The Europeans have nothing to do with this, as much as they want to be involved. And let me tell you something. We are seeing a big rift between Trump and the Europeans on all kinds of fronts. I talked about that last night for a second. I want to come back to that in a minute, but let me finish up this peace deal. So apparently the Europeans and Zelensky are going to be sending Washington a counter proposal. Now, I can tell you right now, I haven't read a word of it. It's not going to be acceptable in any way, shape, or form, because a peace deal takes two signatories. Okay? I promise you, anything that the Europeans and the Ukrainians are putting down on paper as a proposal, Putin's going to tell them to fly a kite. Listen, this gets back to the no cards issue. Putin's got all the cards because he's winning the war. He doesn't have to sign a peace deal. And again, Zelensky reiterated the fact that, he's willing to hold elections because Trump's been pushing him on that for a long time now, because he's technically, his term was over 2 years ago. And at that time, he declared martial law. Like any good dictator, he started putting in prison his political opponents. He took control of all the media. The government now controls all the media in Ukraine. All right? Basically, he's been a dictator the last 2 years. Sorry, that's a fact. But because Trump keeps talking about holding elections, Zelensky today, again, yesterday and today, reiterated that he would be open to having elections in 90 days. Wait for it now. Except, first, here he is. This midget puppet dictator wannabe is now going to insert a clause before he considers elections. Here's the clause. There has to be a security guarantee in place before we can hold elections. Now, I've told you a million times, when they're talking about security guarantee, okay, they're not talking about Europe. They're talking about the United States. Military on the ground, defensive weapons, full intelligence. Basically, their security guarantee is the United States in Ukraine. That's not happening. And again, he is in no position to be making any demands. None. And here's another interesting item that popped up this morning before I even got into all this other stuff later in the day. 82% of Ukrainians, they just had a fresh poll, 82% of Ukrainians want peace. They want elections because if a lowly internet evangelist in Florida knows there's never going to be a peace deal with Zelensky in power, you think the Ukrainian people don't know that? They want elections and they want peace quickly. And again, what's even driven the fervor for this has been the recent reporting that is now not just gossip, not just rumor, but it's actual hard reporting of the massive amount of corruption that has been going on in Ukraine since the start of this iteration of the 2014 war, when this really began, the latest iteration, February 2022. just in that time period, the massive, massive corruption, which is now very public, cannot be ignored. To the point even the New York Times had to print some stories about it over the weekend. And they really were the first Western media outlet to do so. Okay? So that's where we're at, folks. And I can tell you right now, we are nowhere close to any kind of a peace deal because Zelensky just is not going to agree to anything. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. As far as the Europeans, they're absolutely worthless. They have nothing to do with this. You know, they're going to send Trump a peace proposal written by the Ukrainians, Europeans, which I guarantee isn't worth the paper it's printed on. You know, Zelensky's talking about that. I'm sorry, let me reiterate. Zelensky's talking about having a meeting in Europe, not Washington, because Trump's basically knocked down the Washington meeting. Trump's done with this stuff. Don Jr. at that convention in Qatar this last week, what he said was not an accident. It was very targeted. It was very purposeful when he was talking about his father's negotiating style and talking about how at some point there just isn't a deal and you just have to walk away. And again, I'll just say it one more time. That's what I've been advocating for since day one, because that's the only way there's going to be peace. Peace in Ukraine will come when the U.S. walks away. Europe will finally be exposed as the absolute useless people they are. Okay? And basically Zelensky's going to be left with nobody to cover his butt. Putin will probably take full advantage, and he will flee the country because his people will either flee or his people are going to hang him up like they did El Duce. Okay? At the when his rule in Italy, Mussolini's rule in Italy came to an end, and they took his naked body and the naked body of his mistress and hung it in the town square so people could spit on it and beat it and everything. Yeah. So before that happens, Zelensky will just leave, and then they'll put a new person in charge. Trump will roll in. I say 48 hours, 72 hours, maybe 24 hours. They'll have a peace deal. It'll be over, because that's what the people want. They want this over. Russia's got that land. They're not giving it back. Now, I mentioned that I wasn't going to go here tonight, but as long as I'm there, let me reiterate what I told you last night. Politico, which is a left-leaning political website, had a big article yesterday that the most influential man in Europe is Donald Trump. That has frosted the Europeans like you cannot imagine. But it's true. It's true. They're upset because Trump isn't letting them rob us blind anymore on trade. They're upset because Trump isn't like 100% behind this insane war in Ukraine like that idiot Biden was. They're very upset because Trump basically called out the European leaders the other day and said most of them are fools. Fools for allowing unlimited migration into their countries, which is destroying the very fabric of Europe. Fools for falling for this green energy scam that has destroyed their economies. And you know what their biggest problem is? The people of Europe on 100% agree with Donald Trump. That's why you've seen populist uprising in France, in Italy, in Germany, in the UK. Nigel Farage is going to be the next Prime Minister of the UK. Mr. Brexit. You know, the AFN party and the Conservative Party, the Nationalist Party in Germany is going to be in total power very quickly. Meloni, while she tries to play both sides of the fence, she's very comfortable, running Italy with mostly nationalist policies. Macron, he's a dead man walking. He's gone through. Now he's the head of France. He got a president. He's been through 3 or 4 presidents in the last year. It's only a matter of time before he's up, and he'll be gone. And again, the Le Pen party, which is the Nationalist Party in France, is surging. So while the globalist leaders of Europe are just bitter at Trump for all kinds of reasons, like here in this country, the people are 100% behind him and everything he's been saying. But there is a major rift right now in Europe, but those rifts will be healed once they get rid of these globalists like Starmer in the UK, Getz in Germany, Macron in France. Once all those people are out, the relations, I believe, will be a lot better. As I told you last night, the Fed did lowered the interest rate by a 1/4 point. Many on the Fed board were trying for a full 50-point drop, which should have been done 2 or 3 times ago, but they at least got a 1/4 point drop. So better than nothing. Miami had their mayoral election on Tuesday night. And for the first time in 28 years, they elected a Democratic mayor. Now, she is not as bad as Mandami, but she's still a Democrat. No Democrat today can be in office unless they've got some radical tendencies. Here's the problem, though, and this now opens the door to a much bigger problem. I talked to you about it after the runoff election in Nashville a few weeks ago. We had this absolutely insane Democrat running against a Republican in basically a place where Trump won by 22 points. The Republican did win, but I think the end result was 8 or 9 points, nowhere near where it was with Trump. Even though they won, that's a red flag. Same thing in Miami. Now Miami, and Miami is interesting because here's the thing. The Democratic mayor of Miami that was just elected only had 13,400 votes. It was the lowest turnout in Miami mayoral election history. In other words, it wouldn't have taken much of a turnout by Republicans to keep Gonzalez, the Republican mayor, in office. And herein lies the real issue. I've been kind of weaving it in and out of a lot of the stuff I've been talking to you about lately, but it's a problem that I've identified. It's not anything that you have to be a genius to understand. But the fact is, when Donald Trump is not on the ballot, the turnout goes way down. I mean, they have estimated fairly accurately that somewhere between 10 and 15% of the Republican vote are people that are voting primarily for Trump and Trump alone. Meaning if he's not on the ballot, they're not voting. They're not voting. We've always isolated the problem within the church where usually at best you get 50% of evangelicals voting. Now, I think they did a little better than that in 24. I think, with efforts like people like Ralph Reed and some others, I think they got it up to maybe 54, 55%. And that's a solid number of people. But I have to remind you once again, when the Republicans are in power, they twiddle their thumbs. They basically do nothing. if the Republicans lose the House, which is a massive historical possibility based on the midterm elections with the ruling party, historically they always get wiped out in the midterms the next 2 years later. If that historical precedent stands, Trump's presidency is effectively over. Now, here's the sad thing. Because of the Russia hoax, which everybody knew was a lie, and then the garbage impeachments, and then you had COVID during his entire last year. I mean, you can honestly say Trump might have gotten 6-8 months out of his first 4 years. Now, God bless him. He did a lot of good things. Got the military regrouped, got the economy back humming again. We were clearly back as the leader on the world stage. Okay, he did a lot of good things in the time, but in all essence, he got maybe 6 to 8 months of his 4 years. If the Republicans lose the House next November, he's going to have basically only 2 years of this 4-year term, because his last 2 years are going to be a nightmare. If the Democrats take back the House next November, the swearing in of that new Congress will be January 3rd of 2027. Okay? That's basically a year from now, a year and a few weeks from now. They will swear in the new Congress. Hakeem Jeffries will immediately be sworn in as the new Speaker of the House. Unless they have some challenge, they're not going to. And as soon as Hakeem Jeffries finishes oath as the Speaker, he is then going to introduce articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. And I know every time I say, but what are they going to impeach him for, Bill? He didn't. Doesn't matter. Heck, last time they impeached him over a phone call, and they impeached him for inciting. The second was he impeached him for inciting an insurrection that he had nothing to do with. I mean, just today you had some idiot Democrat Congresswoman put in articles of impeachment against Trump. And you had another idiot put in articles of impeachment against Hegseth and another one against Bobby Jr. Now, those are going nowhere because the Republicans thankfully control the House, and Johnson's just going to take those impeachments and throw them in the garbage can. But on January 3rd of 2027, if Hakeem Jeffries has that gavel, his very first order of business is going to be impeach Trump. And in short order, trust me when I tell you this, they will impeach Bondi, they will impeach Patel, they will impeach Bobby Jr., they will impeach Hegseth, they'll impeach Gabbard, they'll impeach Kristi Noem. They'll basically just run through all of his cabinet secretaries. They'll impeach them all. But Bill, how are they going to do that? Watch them. They're not going to sit around and twiddle their thumbs like the Republicans. Day one, there's going to be action. Matter of fact, if they take back the House in the November election, they're going to have roughly 7 weeks before they actually physically are sworn in and take power. In those 7 weeks, oh my God, Democratic law firms are going to be pumping 24/7. They will now control all the House committees. They will be subpoenaing everybody and their dog. You do not even begin to understand the nightmare that this is all going to turn into. You really don't. And the fact is, the only thing that's going to stop, and don't forget, we're now not just bucking an election, we're bucking history. Matter of fact, in the last 54 years, something like that, the only time that historical outcome of the party in power in the White House losing the midterms. Only one time it happened. You know when? 2002, the first midterms of George W. Bush. However, and people say, well, what did Bush do? Bush didn't do anything. What happened basically a year before those midterms? 9/11. We were still in, the aftermath of 9/11. Bush, people thought he was a strong leader. They were going after Al-Qaeda and all that. That's why you didn't have the history repeat itself in 2002. As popular as Obama was, I think he lost 40 House seats. He was elected in the 2010 midterms. Of course, that was the big surge, a lot of Tea Party and everything. He lost 40 seats. The very popular. Hope he changed Obama. I'll never forget. He was asked about it like a day or two later, and he classically said, yeah, we got shellacked. So not only are we fighting history, we're fighting a fact that anywhere from 10 to 15% of people who vote for Trump in 24, they're not going to vote. By the way, the DOJ, one of the problems they've got is hiring prosecutors. And let me tell you why. It's no secret that most major law firms have a major Democratic bent. But you've got some law firms that, lean towards Republicans, conservatives, right? But potential attorneys that might come on board and work for the DOJ during this Trump administration, possibly becoming assistant U.S. attorneys, okay? They're being told, you go to work in the Trump administration and you will never get a job with a major law firm as long as you have breath in your lungs. This is not, some, Saturday Night Live skit. This isn't like a paranoia. This actually is happening. They say, fine, you want to go work for Trump. When Trump's done, and he'll be done, and there'll be a new, president, and you'll probably be booted because if a new president's Democrat, they have no qualms about getting rid of anybody with a conservative bent. They said, then you're going to have to go back to, working in a law firm. And they just blatantly said, there is no legitimate major law firm that will even take your resume. Just giving you an idea of some of the issues that are out there. By the way, I've got a few more things to wrap up with you, but let me just share this with you. It's a lot lighter, okay? Harris yesterday on her book tour stated that there is going to be a marble bust of her created in Congress because she is a historical figure. Okay? Now, first of all, she's been bragging about this book tour. I did some checking. Because she keeps saying, oh, we're sold out everywhere, blah, blah. Sold out nowhere, number one. Number two, tickets for her book tour are usually in the $11 range, but because there's been such low demand, more than 50% of the people are getting it for free. And in these type of things, they always try to make some extra money by having these meet and greet, where let's just say a normal ticket is $11. But if you want to, meet Cammie and everything and take a picture with her and things like that, that might cost you $125. Those tickets, they can't give those tickets away. Okay? So her book tour's been a total failure. Just putting that on the record because, this conversation about her marble bust came about in the midst of her book tour, which she was claiming was sold out everywhere we go, we're sold. Yeah, she wishes. Here's the reality about Cammie, okay? She has absolutely zero accomplishments politically, zero accomplishments as a lawyer, okay? She started out working in the, as a line, as a scrub attorney in the San Francisco city attorney's office. She then became the DA of San Francisco. She then parlayed that into becoming the DA of the state, or the Attorney General of the state of California. And she parlayed that into becoming a U.S. Senator from California. Now, here's the fact. She wasn't elected the DA of San Francisco or the state AG of California or a U.S. Senator because of her great legal and political accomplishment. Nope. The only way she was able to get those positions is because she slept with a married man by the name of Willie Brown. Willie Brown, still alive, I think he's in the 90s now, is a legend in California politics. Back in those days, he was like the power broker of California. Willie Brown could make the earth move. And because she was sleeping with the married Willie Brown in a multi-year situation, that's how she became the DA of San Francisco, the AG of California, and a senator from California. Nothing at all was due to her political or legal accomplishments or skills. Now, then she became vice president. And for the record, Willie Brown had nothing to do with that. But there was a deal brokered between a very powerful, longtime South Carolina Congressman, Jim Clyburn. Black man, kind of runs the black election circuit in the South. And he and Barack Obama made a deal. They were going to make Joe Biden they're the Democratic nominee for 2020. Now, just so you understand, they already had the Des Moines caucuses. They had the primary in New Hampshire before South Carolina. Biden was, I think, 4th in Iowa, 5th in New Hampshire. And had they not involved themselves with South Carolina, there was no way Joe Biden was going to come in anywhere further than 4th or 5th in South Carolina. But Obama and Clyburn cut a deal. Joe Biden was going to be their puppet. And Clyburn rallied the black vote in South Carolina, gave Biden an amazing victory. And of course, he parlayed that through the South, again with Clyburn's ability to bring the black vote home for Biden. And he was the nominee. You had COVID, which was an excuse to keep him hidden in the basement so he didn't have to run a campaign because he was not mentally or physically able to, as anybody with eyes and ears and understanding knew 6 months before the election. And then they used COVID as an excuse to cheat and steal the 2020 election. There you go. Now, part of their deal with Biden was, we're going to tell you who your VP is. You don't get to pick your VP. We've already picked her. It's going to be Kamala Harris. Now, I can tell you why Biden would have never picked Cammie. Don't forget, in one of those earlier debates as they were trying to go through and see who the nominee was going to be, if you remember, Harris basically called Biden a stone-cold racist in one of those debates. Dr. Jill hated her from that moment on, still does. But Harris was not Biden's choice because Biden had no choice. So here's the bottom line. Yes, she is a historical figure, but not because of any accomplishments in the legal field or the political arena. She became a historical figure because a backroom deal was cut to have a female woman of color as Biden's vice president. Now, when they put this marble bust of her somewhere in the Congress, I think I've got two suggestions for the nameplate, okay? One nameplate, I think, could be titled Kamala Willie Brown Side Piece Harris. Now, that might be a little crude for people. I get it. True, it's accurate. But I think this one is actually even more to the point. The nameplate should read, Kamala, the first DEI Vice President Harris. There you go. She's right. She is a historical figure. She's a historical figure because she literally was the first DEI Vice President in the United States. She had no qualifications to become vice president in any way, shape, or form. It was only because of the color of her skin. By the way, I know this is going to probably shock people. Crockett's, now that she's put herself out there, there's people digging a little bit. Her personal finances are a disaster. Unpaid bills, lawsuits for not paying bills, liens against her. Yet at the same time, she uses her campaign funds like a personal piggy bank. Limos, big dinners, living large on that campaign cash. But her personal finances are an absolute nightmare. Now you got a New York judge again today. Federal judge ordered the release of all of the Epstein grand jury documents from his 2019 arrest and attempted prosecution before he killed himself in jail. Okay? So here's what you got now. Hello, Democrats. Careful what you wish for. They are now going to release the grand jury documents, which they never do, from Epstein's initial 2006 indictment and his last indictment in 2019. And they're going to release the grand jury documents from the Ghislaine Maxwell 2022 indictment. And if you remember when I shared that with you the other night, the judge even said people are going to be very disappointed because there's absolutely zero of any kind of information there that means anything in the scheme of things. That was the judge, who obviously knows what's in those documents. And it's going to be the same way with Epstein documents. These grand juries, they put minimal amount of information before these grand juries to get the indictments. So those are going to come out and there's going to be nothing. Because there is nothing if they're looking to use these to hit Trump. And then that's when they're going to start whining and moaning. Well, there's got to be more. And whatever they put, it's never, you're redacted. What do you hide? It's all being used in the same way they use Russia, something they knew was a lie from day one, yet they used it for 2.5 years as a cudgel against Trump. And that's why he didn't want this. He wasn't trying to hide anything about Epstein. At the end of the day, he signed a bill so all this stuff could be released. Without his signature, you still wouldn't have this grand jury stuff. He's got nothing to hide, but he knows the game because he's been part of it. Okay? He's been the target of this game. And they're going to do the same thing with Epstein. Mark my word. Mark my word. The U.S. seized an oil tanker, a Venezuelan oil tanker. Now, what Venezuela does is they use these what they call ghost ships. You're not really sure whose ship it is, what country it's from, but they fill these ships, full of oil. Then they send it to places like Cuba, who's one of their benefactors, right? Well, the U.S. seized the ship, and in a White House scrum today, one of the reporters asked Trump, what are you going to do with the oil? And Trump looked at her and said, keep it. Oh, you gotta love Trump. You really do. By the way, I know I've said this before. I just got to hit this one more time. The media The corporate media, the mainstream media, the scumbag fake news media, whatever you want to call them, because they're all accurate. It just amazes me. And I'll tell you what triggered this. Man, Luigi Mangione was in court today. And the media, they're probably as big as cheerleaders. Well, we think he might be able to get, the judge might throw this out, and he might be able to get off on it. I mean, they are literally cheerleading for this guy to get off. Those hags on The View, Sunny Hostin, who I guess was an attorney, she's given, all this, making all these legal predictions how Luigi may get off. Get off! He executed a man on camera in cold blood. Get off! And that really triggered it, because it's amazing me how they support a communist jihadist like Mamdani, career criminals who've been arrested 90 times and are out on the street still killing and raping and molesting and everything else. And of course, their love for the illegals. Doesn't matter their murders, doesn't matter they're gangbangers, doesn't matter they rape women and little girls. No. They love their illegals. And don't forget, this isn't new. They were all on board for Trayvon Martin, who literally attacked the wrong guy. Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot. People still believe that's true today. Still believe. Freddie Gray in Baltimore. Oh, by the way, don't forget how Michael Brown died. He hit a cop and tried to take his gun. Let me give you some advice. If you want to die and you don't have the guts to kill yourself, if you really want to die, go walk up to a policeman, punch him in the face, and then try to take his gun. Do it, because you will be dead. George Floyd, of course. Oh, God, they turned George Floyd into a saint, even though he was nothing but a lifelong drug addict, career violent criminal, made some pornos on the side. Just an absolute disgusting waste of a human being, yet they turned him into a saint. Okay, it just amazes me how the media, and then people that are, living their lives good, name escapes me right now, but the ex-Marine that probably saved lives on that subway train in New York a couple of years ago. I mean, they demonized him like he was, a horrible career criminal, which he was not. In other words, they blast the good guys and they stick up for the bad guys. That's just sick. Just sick. I don't know what's going to happen with these with this health insurance thing. Again, this is another Democratic scam that is now blown up. They pushed it for 15 years, $700 billion of our money we've given to to insurance companies so they could get rich, insuring people that otherwise wouldn't have insurance. Okay? And don't forget the whole Obamacare scam was designed to collapse private insurance and leave the federal government as the only insurance agency out there. That was the whole purpose. But all these premiums are going to be doubling, tripling, 5 times, 10 times at the end of the year. You're talking about 30, 40 million people being affected. And the Republicans, they don't want to keep this scam going, but their back's against the wall. Because if they let all these premiums triple, quadruple, 8, 9 times, they're going to pay a price for a Democratic policy. But to be fair, This has been going on 15 years, and the Republicans just didn't have the guts, like normal, to deal with it. My guess is we're at what, the 10th? I mean, all this stuff's going to take place on the 31st. My guess is Republicans will cave. They'll sign some kind of a short-term, one-year deal, give the insurance companies another $40 billion of our money. Nothing's going to change. There was an interesting poll out today. And again, the reason you watch this program is because you get a lot of truth on this program. Sometimes truth that you never really thought about, wasn't like a big topic of the day. But I've been telling you all along. Pete Buttigieg, he's going to run for president 28. Yes, he will. And he's going to have some money. He's going to have some support. But at the end of the day, he will not be the Democratic nominee. He will never be the Democratic nominee. Not in 100 years. You know why? Because he chooses to engage in perverted, unnatural, unhealthy sex with another man. And the major constituency of the Democratic Party are blacks. And to their credit, they're never going to vote for, a little sexual deviant like Buttigieg. His fake marriage and his fake family. There was a poll out today. It's funny because as soon as I saw it, I said, you got to be kidding me. This poll, and it was amongst blacks, okay? Only blacks. This poll. Buttigieg is less popular than whoever leads the KKK. Swear? I saw this thing, I started laughing out loud because, again, it just reinforces what I've been telling you for ever and ever. He's got no chance of ever being the president because the blacks will never vote for him. And a poll just came out today, strictly amongst blacks, that whoever leads the KKK amongst blacks is more popular than Buttigieg. By the way, where is that audio between Biden and her? Remember they held Merrick Garland in contempt because he wouldn't turn it over? Well, our people are in charge. Pam Bondi, hello. I want that audio out there. People need to hear what an absolute, not just joke, but fraud Biden was for 4 years. Nothing is better than audio-visual evidence. I can only imagine how bad that audio has to be. Two quick immigration notes. They've now uncovered. Yes, they didn't get these documents destroyed fast enough. Dozens of memos from advisors to Joe Biden, to him directly, warning him about the border immigration policies, how they were going to become a disaster, causing endless problems for years to come. This wasn't one, advisor. These were numerous memos in the first year and a half, 2 years of the Biden administration, warning him what an absolute nightmare these open border policies that he was advocating and Mayorkas was fulfilling was going to be to the country. And again, these were Democrats. These were Biden's people. These weren't Trumpers. These weren't people who hated brown people. These were Biden's people, supported Biden, supported his policies. But they were warning him, this is insanity. He blew him off. By the way, Tom Homan is working with a couple Homeland Security investigators. They have, and I've checked on this every week from Sunday, they have pulled all the immigration files from one Ilhan Omar. Okay? They have, apparently, a couple snitches from within the Somali community as far as this whole issue of her brother. And the reason that's important is because she's blown off documents that have surfaced, but these people can confirm, yes, those were the documents that where she married her brother to get her brother into this country. And if they prove that, there is a process called denaturalization, okay? And immigration fraud is clearly an issue to denaturalize someone, which means her citizenship would be voided and they would start immediate deportation proceedings on Ilhan Omar. Now, do the Republicans have the guts to do this? I really hate saying this. I really do. I would be willing to bet my maximum of 5 Chicago hot dogs. These gutless, spineless, something else less wonders. At the end of the day, they won't do it. They'll have all the evidence and they won't do it. They got all the evidence of 10 years of crimes by Comey and McCabe and Stroke and Page and I mean Brennan and Clapper and all of them. These people on cable TV laughing every night, selling books, going out to dinner, laughing. By the way, can you imagine the media losing their minds if they started deportation proceedings against Omar? Oh, they'd go crazy. You would turn on CNN, you'd literally see heads blowing off bodies. Lastly, before we shut things down tonight, the maker of that app to track ICE and to help people to go harass them and interfere with their work, okay? He's suing the Trump administration. That's probably not a big surprise. Oh, one more thing. I've been wondering for days. Over the weekend, we got this report of a career criminal in Charlotte on their light rail system that stabbed somebody. By the grace of God, that person at least lived in critical condition. And I started something triggered that today, and I went to start looking. The media's almost barely covered it all. Fox here a little bit, but most of the media never even mentioned it. Can I tell you why they never mentioned it? Of course, the career criminal that did the stabbing was black. The guy he stabbed was black. His name's Kenyon Dobie. And according to eyewitness testimony, he was the only one who was brave enough to confront this guy who was threatening people on that rail car with a knife. They won't talk about it because it's black on black. There's nothing to see here, folks. Now, if that was a white guy with a knife stabbing the black guy, 24/7. By the way, Dobie's still in critical condition. Do me a favor. Kenyon Dobie. Call his name out before the Lord tonight, before you go to bed. Would you do that? And just pray that God will heal this man. I mean, he was just simply on that train car. Apparently, this guy was threatening people. And Kenyon Dobie stepped in and is in critical condition tonight because he was trying to do the right thing to make sure nobody got hurt. All right. Good night tonight. Before we leave you tonight, if you've never made a decision for Christ, I want to make sure you have that opportunity right now. And let me tell you something. Here's the danger of watching Live Prayer with Bill Keller. Okay, I'm just going to be honest with you. If you watch Live Prayer with Bill Keller, you will always hear in this show an invitation to accept Jesus. And there's going to be a lot of people who take their last breath. And all of a sudden, they're going to be standing before the God that they didn't even think existed. And as he gets ready to sentence them to eternity in hell, they're going to start making excuses. But I never knew. I didn't know. Nobody told me. It's not fair that you're going to send me to hell. I didn't know. Nobody told me. Well, I'm just giving you a warning. There is a danger in watching this program, because if you watch this program or you watch any type of public event that I'm involved in, you will never be able to stand before God on that day if you've rejected Christ and tell God, nobody told me. If you'd like to make that commitment, pray with me now. Dear Lord, I come to you tonight, confessing my sins, asking you to forgive me, Lord. Tonight I believe in my heart and confess with my mouth that Jesus is my Lord, my Savior, my Redeemer. And tonight I give my life to you. I surrender to you tonight. Use me for your glory now and forevermore. I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. My friend, if you made that commitment tonight, that profession of faith, it's not your words that saved you. It's what you were doing in your heart by faith in God's grace, Ephesians 2:8-9. Have a book I'll send you. Won't cost you anything. Drop me an email, bkellerliveprayer.com. I'll get it out to you if you need prayer for anything. Never hesitate to email me, bkellerliveprayer.com. All right, have a good rest of your Wednesday evening. Have a beautiful sleep tonight, a glorious day Thursday. And Lord willing, we will be back here tomorrow night, 11 o'clock Eastern. God bless you.
What problems are you dealing with in your life right now?
Do you feel like giving up? Times are hard and you're not strong. Well, I know the answer for you, and it